I want to start today's episode by saying something that you might need to hear. You're not lazy. You're not broken, and you're not failing at life. If you've been telling yourself this lately, I get it. Maybe the dishes are piling up, maybe you can't remember the last time you felt excited about something, or maybe getting out of bed feels like climbing a mountain. And when that happens, it's so easy to slap that lazy on yourself and sink into deeper shame. But here's the truth. What looks like laziness is often something much bigger. It might be depression, it might be grief, it might be emotional burnout, or soul exhaustion. Labeling yourself as lazy is not only unhelpful, it's just simply not true. So today, we want to give you hope and something practical. We're going to talk to you through 5 simple things you can do today to get motivated, get some energy back, and trust yourself again. Because here's the key. Confidence is built by doing what you say you're going to do, even in the smallest ways. And when you start small, you can start to shift how you see yourself and how you move forward. Let's dive in. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Emerge Stronger. I am here with my co-host Melody, and today we're talking about maybe you're not lazy, perhaps you're depressed. And so we're going to give you 5 tips on how to get moving again today. One of the things when I thought about this topic is trying to make sure that you are building your confidence. And one way to build your confidence is to do what you say you're going to do. And so, Melody, let's dive in.
I think a lot of people will think that, okay, I got to make a goal. Achieving a goal makes us feel better about ourselves, right? And I think I got to make a goal and I have to achieve this big, huge thing. When in reality, it's not about achieving the bigger thing, although we want to get there, but we have to create these small little steps in between. So you have the overall goal and then you have these action steps. And that's one of the things I was telling my client earlier today, because I was like, write down 3 goals. You can make it a short-term goal, an intermediate goal, and then a long-term goal. And then, so he said, okay. And he came back today with those. And I said, now create action steps. Okay. Because the overall goal can seem too big. So making these small little commitments over time. And sometimes, especially if you're depressed, even the smallest of things can feel like mountains, right? So it's just like, okay, today I'm going to fold 1 basket of clothes, or today I'm just going to clean up my room. You break it down. I know on Saturdays, I sometimes feel very overwhelmed because I have to clean the whole house. And so I'll say, okay, I'm going to start with, I'm just going to clean 1 room. But what it tends to do is give me momentum, and then I'm able to do more. So if you take your overall goal or commitment, I'm going to commit to this, then you just make 1 little step. I remember listening to one time Zig Ziglar, and he struggled with his weight early on in his life. And he said, I decided I needed to lose weight. It was going to be the thing that helped me. And because he would speak so much, he's like, you have to have endurance to be able to speak. And so he said, I'm just going to start walking to the stop sign and back. So it was like a few hundred feet. And so slowly but surely, he was able to walk several miles a day, but he started with just to the stop sign and back, just a couple hundred feet and then back. And he said over time, it built his confidence in order to achieve the goal. So whatever your major goal is, break it into small mini goals. And once you achieve the walking to the stop sign and back, then it's going to give you the momentum to do more over time.
Yeah, I totally agree. One thing that I was thinking about too is I feel like our phones are keeping us stuck.
Right.
And so when you're talking about these micro commitments, I think even that one of those micro commitments to yourself is I am not going to pick up my phone and doom scroll today.
Mm-hmm.
Because as we all know, that's not productive.
No.
It's not helping you move further. And so even if you can make yourself that one commitment to not pick up your phone, I'm only going to pick up my phone if I have a phone call or to listen to music, but I am not going to get on social media. because that's not going to help me achieve my, even if it's a micro goal, even if it's a small goal, it is not going to help me achieve that goal. And so we are in a society right now where we're glued to our phones. And I admit I'm glued to my phone. And sometimes I'll just carry my phone around with me as I'm doing laundry or as I'm, cleaning the kitchen. And then I'm like, what am I doing? Like, just leave it in the other room, put it down. And I think that that's one huge thing that we all can do, is just to put our phones down.
I know that sometimes people will get stuck in the habit of, like, right before they go to bed, and they will stay up late. They intend to go to bed at a certain time, and then they get stuck in the rut of scrolling and all that.
Yeah.
So even if you're trying to break a habit, you could do, you know what, instead of scrolling on my phone for an hour, I'm going to scroll on my phone for 55 minutes. Right. And so you kind of start weaning yourself off a bad habit. Like when you go on a diet, which we were just kind of just talking about this before we hit record. You can't go in and say, I'm not going to eat any sugar. I'm not going to eat any carbs. I'm not going to eat anything bad for myself ever again, because that becomes too taxing on you. We might have willpower in the morning, and by the end of the day, we're exhausted and we don't have that same energy to fight those desires. So it's like, okay, I'm not going to eat the whole cake. I'll eat 3/4 of the cake, or I'll eat half the cake. Right. And so it creates the environment where you don't like go cold turkey on everything. And hey, if you have the willpower to go cold turkey, go ahead. I do not have that willpower. I promise you, I don't. So instead of eating, and we know, I've told you earlier, my weakness is strawberries and chocolate. That's my, if I just ate the strawberries, it would be fine, but I always have to dip it in that chocolate. Okay, instead of eating 5 strawberries with chocolate, I'm going to eat 3 strawberries with chocolate, right? And so it's just, even if you're trying to break a habit, you can do it like that in small increments like that, instead of going cold turkey. Because typically what we do is we'll try to go cold turkey for a few days, and then what do? We end up binging or whatever. So if you're stuck in the rut on your phone, instead of an hour scrolling, go down to 55 minutes. A week later, go down to 50 minutes. And over time, you'll actually begin to see the reward. And again, it creates momentum for you to go a little bit longer.
Yeah. And if you set these really huge goals, all you're doing is setting yourself up for failure, especially if you can be honest with yourself. Like you just said, if I just completely go cold turkey, well, I'm setting myself up for failure, because I know that I can't do that. I know that I have to have at least 3 strawberries and chocolate. And so you have to be really careful with the goals that you're going to set. That's why it's so important to set those small goals and hold yourself accountable. When you do hold yourself accountable to that, it does help build your confidence and helps build the momentum for that motivation to keep going and keep going a little bit further.
Right. And so we might sometimes struggle with some of the emotions that we're feeling, right? So a lot of times when we get stuck in the rut, we start feeling guilt or shame. If we're depressed, a lot of times people will sleep too much or whatever. And we will try to deny what we feel, but the truth of the matter is we can't do that. We can't. Now, you can't start changing a mindset until you own the current mindset that you're in. And sometimes you have to sit with whatever that emotion is, but you don't want that emotion to drive your behavior, right? You want to own the emotion and get it out. And I have told people for years, one of the best things that I ever started was a journal, where I started writing down how I felt. And so I had a couple of journals. I had a gratitude journal, which is good. These are the things that I'm grateful for. It shifts your thinking. It changes your neuro pathways whenever you start focusing on the things that you're grateful for. But I would also want to get the negative stuff out. So this is how I always envisioned the negative stuff in me, that I had this old pressure cooker, not the Instapot, right? But the pressure cooker. And if I was holding on to whatever negative emotions I was feeling, that I could feel the pressure building in me. And with the old time pressure cooker, once the pressure builds up, it starts whistling like, hey, you need to do something with this, turn down the heat, move it off the flame, whatever. And so when I started journaling, I felt like the pressure cooker of my life, whatever I was feeling, sadness, depression, rejection, whatever I was feeling, when I would journal it, it would like move that pot off the heat. And for me, I started what I called a purge journal. So I'd write every negative thing down that I felt, and then I would tear it out of the notebook and rip it into little pieces, and I would throw it in the trash, and I would just say, "Okay, God, I'm releasing this. I'm letting go of this because these things do not serve me, and a lot of it I can't even control." Right? I can only control me. I can't control what's going on the outside. And when I did that, I felt like a weight would lift off. Now, some days I would pick it up again and, feel all the pressure, and I'd go right back to the journal. And research says when you start writing about things, you go back and your brain will start resolving those things, even if there isn't a resolution. Right. And so your brain will start saying, okay, these are separating the things from what I can control and I can't control. Right. And also sometimes just sitting with the emotion is okay, but just not allowing it to drive your behavior.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to move on to the next point, and it's creating a win for your nervous system. And so that what's really important with that is doing something physically for yourself. Sometimes that might mean just getting out of bed and taking a
Mm.
shower.
Right. Mhm.
Sometimes that's taking a walk. And like you said, walk to the stop sign and back. But again, it's also making that commitment. Take a shower, go on a walk, do what you say you're going to do. That's going
Mhm.
to help you reset and bring some clarity into your overall well-being. One other thing that I want to touch on too is, and I think we've touched on this before, is you also have to be careful of what you're consuming. So if you're
Mhm.
finding that you feel depressed, can't get out of bed, you're just feeling very lazy, well, what's your diet like?
Mhm.
Are
Absolutely.
you getting exercise? What are you watching on television? What are
Mhm.
you listening to in your ears? What podcasts are you listening to? What TV shows are you watching? What music are you listening to? All of that. All of
Mhm.
that factors into your overall well-being. And
Mhm.
so I think it's really important to be aware of kind of going back to that journaling too. Journal
Mhm.
it out. What is it that you're doing throughout the day? And maybe
Right.
even highlighting that. Hmm,
Mhm.
highlight this 3 hours of Netflix isn't
Mhm.
serving me well.
Right.
What else
And
can
one
I?
of the one of the things, this was a few weeks ago when we were together in Austin and we were working on some things. And I know for me that I will get started on something and not want to stop until I finish. But the energy, was declining over time. And one of the best things that you said to do is like, hey, let's go on a walk. And that helps so much. It even helped me sleep later that night, right?
Yeah.
And it helped so much. And then the other day you were saying, I'm tired. I went on a walk. And I that impressed me because like when I'm tired, I just want to take a nap. Right. I don't want to go walk, but it reframes. So it's like doing something that's gonna serve your nervous system well, right? It's going to
Mhm.
generate some movement. And I want to just caution here is that, things like eating strawberries with chocolate will affect your nervous system, right? But is that a positive response? It's not really. In the long term, it's not going to be a good thing. So look at those positive coping mechanisms and use those. Now, there's something behind that, especially if you're depressed. It's not just about exercising more or, journaling more or whatever. You want to get down to the why behind what you're feeling, but
Yes.
those things, especially if you don't feel like you have the capacity to tackle the why in that moment, walks, prayer, meditation, grounding, what all those little things can contribute to a change in that nervous system so you can get to the place where you deal with the why behind the what.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. And I think lastly is accountability. And you and I were just talking about that too before we hit record, is just, helping, surrounding yourself with people and helping, surrounding yourself with people so that they can hold you accountable.
Right.
And I think that if, you're listening to this and you're like, yes, I can't get out of bed, I'm feeling depressed, all of these things, this is where you need to talk to somebody. And sometimes that even looks like, hey, Melody, and I did text you on Monday. I'm like, I am
Mhm.
so tired. I
Right.
don't know what's wrong with me. I'm so tired. I can't keep my eyes open. All I want to do is take a nap. And I did push through the day, but just having that somebody to lean on, just to share
Mhm.
that with,
Mhm.
and, even to just circle back. And you did circle back with me. You're like, hey, the next day, how are you feeling? I hope you're not getting sick or anything like that. But
Yeah.
it does help to talk to somebody. And even if I were to say, hey, I want you to hold me accountable. I
Mhm.
am making a commitment to myself to walk for 15 minutes, the first thing I do when I get up in the morning or
Mhm.
right after I have my coffee. and
Mhm.
you send me a text, "Hey, Sonia, did you take your walk today?"
Mhm.
And here's the thing, and even if it's like just a coach or a mentor or somebody like that, the last thing I want to do is the next time I see you is, hey, how are your walks been going?
Mhm.
I really don't want to be like, no, I haven't done any of them. I told you I was going to do it, but I didn't do it. But it's
Right.
also just, it makes you feel better about yourself too when you
Mhm.
do what you say you're going to do.
Right. It gives us that sense of accomplishment, like, hey, I actually followed through and I did it. And so I'm going to say, if you need an accountability partner, call us. We'll be happy to serve as that. We'll give you some direction on some steps that you can take in order to, improve your life, especially if you're depressed. There are things that you can do. It does not have to be a prison where you're stuck. We do care and we do want to help you move forward. Even if it is like, hey, don't eat strawberries and chocolate tonight, or what is a better option than strawberries and chocolate, to give you that a little bit of encouragement and then also accountability. So reach out to us today at info@itsnotover.net.
Amazing. Yes. And so I want to leave the listeners with just a few reflection questions. And so I want you to ask yourself, what is one thing that you can commit to today that feels doable? That's the
Mhm.
first one. Second one is, what emotion am I feeling that needs to be seen and not judged?
Mhm.
And then lastly, what Melody just said, who can I reach out to for support or connection? And that's what we're here for. I think that a lot of our clients have, been really grateful that we have been able just to, through our support calls and through our coaching, just we're here. We're here to
Mhm.
listen. We're not here to
Mhm.
judge. And we're here to walk alongside you through whatever it is that you're going through.
Yeah, and we're here to celebrate because you're the hero of your story, right?
Right.
We're just the here to guide, and we're here to celebrate you as you become the hero of the story. Like, I overcame depression, or overcame overeating, or overcame, being lazy. Whatever the issue is, we're here to celebrate you, when you become the hero.
That's right. All right. Well, thanks. And we'll see you next time.